Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Angela, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about a very highly requested topic, and that's exactly how investment banks choose who gets the offer. Before we jump into today's video, I wanted to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, The Daily Upside. They're my favorite business investing newsletter, but more on them later. Today's video is going to cover three things. First one, recruiting teams and how they're formed. Secondly, how resumes are chosen and who actually will get a first round interview. And lastly, after the super day, how do investment banks choose who actually gets an offer? So during my time working in investment banking, I was a part of my own school's recruiting team. The way this works is that essentially every target school or every school that has somewhat of a presence at a certain bank will have a recruiting team. This team is in charge of a number of things and they work closely with HR. This team is responsible for speaking to students and responding to student coffee chats. They're responsible for looking at people's resumes and choosing who ultimately will get a first round interview. And lastly, they oftentimes are also the ones who interview these same candidates. Now, recruiting teams can be as active or as passive as they choose. It largely depends on the people in it, so as a result, it's going to range from bank to bank and from school to school. Some recruiting teams might be incredibly organized with super enthusiastic alumni who are always willing to speak to students and who are super organized and keep an Excel sheet tracker of everyone that they've spoken to, comments on them, and what they think. And other ones might be pretty passive and not really respond to anyone. And even if you didn't go to a target school, you might think that there is no recruiting team for your school, but a lot of banks actually have non-target recruiting teams. This team is made up of a variety of non-target alumni who volunteer to be a part of this non-target recruiting team. And so, yeah, non-targets also have a team that seek out candidates from other non-targets. So if you went to a non-target school, you have a better shot at emailing someone who also went to your school or someone who went to a non-target versus emailing someone who did go to a target school who likely already has their own recruiting team where they're looking at candidates. As for who the recruiting team consists of, you can usually assume that anyone who is an alumni is part of that recruiting team. It's just a matter of how active they choose to be. Next, let's talk about how resumes are reviewed. The way it usually works is that a packet of resumes is given by HR to the recruiting team. And the recruiting team is expected to get back to HR with a list of candidates that they would recommend for an interview, and those are usually the people who will get that first round interview. When looking through these resumes, there are generally a few things that these recruiting teams are looking for. First one, and the most important, is that they're looking for the resumes of people they've already spoken to and had a good chat with. That's part of the reason why so many people emphasize networking. Because when a packet of 100 resumes is given out, it's usually the names that they recognize that will be the ones that pop out. Second most important, unfortunately, is oftentimes the GPA. It's the next thing that people gravitate to aside from your name on the resume. For a lot of banks, they'll usually have a cutoff of around 3.3. It isn't a strict and hard cutoff, but these are generally the resumes that will end up moving on from HR to the recruiting team. Next, 3.5 is more of a baseline cutoff for people to begin reviewing your resume more seriously, and anything above a 3.7 is definitely viewed in your favor. And the next thing that people generally look for when they're looking at resumes is club association. If everyone from this pile of resumes already goes to the same school, and having an extra level of connection, such as having been in the same club together or having gone to the same hometown even, is going to make someone want to vouch for you more. That's why there are so many things in the review process that are honestly a little bit unpredictable. I'd say about 80% of the selection process is based off of people who have coffee chatted before, and another 20% is based on how good the actual resume is. Usually the person who makes the final say in the selection process is a combination of the recruiting captain and the most senior person on the recruiting team. Investment banking is a pretty hierarchical industry in general, and usually the more senior you are, the more say you have. However, that's not to say that you should only coffee chat with senior people, because they have so little time on their hands that The people who are the most involved in the recruitment process are usually the analysts and associates, the more junior people, because they're also likely recent graduates and have closer connections with their colleges. Next, let's talk about the interview process. So first round interviews will generally be held by analysts and associates. First round interviews can range from being completely virtual, in which you're answering pre-recorded questions and your interview is recorded down. It can be a phone call or a video interview, most likely during the coronavirus situation. Or lastly, it can also be in person. If you've coffee chatted with a lot of people in the recruiting team, there might be a good chance that your interviewer is actually one of them. And this is because oftentimes they ask alumni from your school to interview students from their same school as well. During the first round interview process, the interviewer is really looking only for a few things. One, is this person well-spoken and do they communicate well? Two, do they know their basic technicals and behaviorals, meaning have they even prepped for these interviews? And three, are they able to just get along well with the interviewer in general and have a good conversation? Interviews after the first round will likely be with more senior people. This is because the pool has narrowed down and now they want to get the senior people in to decide who ultimately will get this offer. Oftentimes, again, this will be an alumnus from your school. So again, if there is an executive director or a managing director who's from your school, very likely chance that they will end up being your interviewer. By the last round, it's assumed that you can answer your basic technicals and behaviorals, so oftentimes super days will be more about getting to know you. They're either looking for two types of people. The first one is someone who is well-spoken, super technical, and who will just be an absolute beast during it, or two, someone who they can connect with on a more personal level and who they know will get along really well with the entire team. So oftentimes the people who stand out either by their personalities or their experiences that end up getting this offer. One great way to prep for these interviews is with the Daily Upside. They are the sponsor for this video, and the Daily Upside is a business newsletter that curates impactful and insightful financial news. Their founder actually worked in investment banking for a decade and started this newsletter after. By signing up for this newsletter, which might I mention is completely free and all you have to do is click the link down in my description box below, you'll get highly curated stories from the best writers in financial news, and you'll have all the tools you need to have an insightful and engaging conversation during these interviews to show that you're actually reading up on the news. Again, link is in my description box below. It is completely risk-free. You can unsubscribe at any time if you want to, and it is completely free. Now, lastly, let's talk about offers. The way that the offers are decided is that all of the interviewers from your last round will have a meeting together, whether it be a call or in person, and they're going to discuss each candidate one by one. As each candidate is brought up, they're going to discuss their experiences and their interview with this candidate, and then more likely than not, each of these candidates are going to be ranked. So if there are 20 people who had the super day, all 20 people are going to be ranked from 1 through 20. HR is ultimately the one who decides exactly how many offers they're going to give out that year. So if they're only giving out 5 spots, then the first 5 people on that list are going to get a call with an offer. These 5 people will be given about a 2-week exploding deadline to accept this offer, and if they do not, HR is going to continue to move down that list. So guys, that marks the end of this video. I really hope you found it helpful. I hope this video was able to offer you more transparency into the process for how candidates are chosen, how offers are given out. If you have any other questions, please leave it down in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and it would mean so much to me if you were to give this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!